What's up, and welcome to another round of Crooked Moon subclass reviews. Today we're going to be putting on our best funeral attire and grabbing a sickle, because we're talking about two subclasses that are symbolic of life and death. The Harvest Domain Cleric and the Barrow Guard Fighter. Let's get stuck in and see which of these subclasses will make you the hero or zero of your table. Alright, let's start with the Harvest Domain Cleric then. The vibe here is, you're not just a cleric of life and bounty, you're sort of a cleric who knows that a good harvest requires good sacrifice. Starting with the spell list as usual, and at level 3 we have a little break from the norm, as you must pick an aspect of the harvest cycle between sowing, growing and reaping. This changes your spell list. You can change this on each short and long rest, and it will come into play for a lot more than just your spells. It's easier then for me to just show you the spell list on the screen, and talk about the new ones, and review the whole list overall, assuming you have the flexibility of changing your cycle. Each crooked symbol represents a spell that is new to this book. For example, the Summer Winds, which we covered in the Druid review, is a conal heal that also damages undead. Harvest Moonglow is an hour-long AoE that reveals invisibility and allows allies a bonus action to gain temporary hit points, while within a 20-foot radius. Culling Sickle lets you concentrate, and on a bonus action do repeatable ranged spell attacks that give you some of the damage back as health. A decent consistent use for a backline caster with limited bonus action uses. It reminds me a bit of Spectral Weapon in that regard, but as this requires concentration, I don't think it quite holds up. Sanctum of the Shepherd we've also covered in the Druid video, and it requires a whole lot of hoops and money to give your whole party plus 1 AC for a day. After thinking about the maths, this seems really weak unless you know for certain you're going to be fighting a heck of a lot the next day. Consuming Pyre is, frankly, horrific. For the next minute, your unwilling victim must pass a dex save or burn for a total of 48 damage on cast and at the start of their turn. They have to use an action to even attempt this save again. It's a bit like Heat Metal upcast, but has more upfront damage and less targeting restrictions. Yeesh, I wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of this. Field of Reaping applies a sort of vulnerability curse in a 30-foot cube that adds 1d6 necrotic damage the first time per turn that the cursed creature takes damage from anything. I can't get behind this spell in isolation. I actually think the level 1 spell Fairy Fire does something like this, but maybe better? Well, regardless of which one's better, when you're comparing a level 1 spell to a level 5 spell, it's not a good sign. Overall, this spell list is quantity over quality, and while it's got its uses, nothing here really compares to something like the Light Domain's Fireball or Revivify from the Life Domain. These spells are situational or just bad. Sure, I mean, I'd be content using Consuming Pyre on every single fight and ruining some bad guys' lives, but in doing so, you lose access to Guidance and Summer Winds. This is the restricting factor of having to choose a cycle, I suppose. Spell list alone kind of makes me just want to stay as Reaper. This would let me know my limits and my role in a fight. We'll see later on if that playstyle is supported or not. So, this list gives us a glimpse into the 3 cycles and their identities. Sowing is buffing your team, getting ready for a fight, preparing. Growing is healing and other things you can do in a fight to help turn the tables. And reaping is just damage and debuffs. At level 3, on top of these spells, you also gain 3 traits, starting with something minor called Community Almanac. You gain a Herbalism kit, and you have proficiency with it. You also gain proficiency in Nature and Survival. 3 added proficiencies is pretty nice as far as I can tell. In 2024, this seems to be the only subclass that gives you proficiencies like this at level 3. Again, at level 3, you gain the Cornucopia feat. This amounts to something similar to the Chef feat, if you've ever taken that. Buffing teammates during short rests. It's great for survival games. Not particularly strong in a normal campaign though. You also gain Bountiful Harvest. As an action, and with a use of your channel divinity, you can give your whole party heroic inspiration once per day. And then, you add on an additional benefit depending on your current cycle. With Sowing, A target takes a number of temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier. With growing, until the end of your next turn, when a target makes an attack roll or ability check, it adds 1d4 to the total. And with reaping, a target deals extra necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus the first time it damages a creature before the end of your next turn. Wow, this feature is really powerful. Completely fight winning at low levels. I actually even think this kind of scales okay because giving your whole team heroic inspiration rerolls actually really impactful no matter the level of play. Sure, low levels you can only use this twice a day and only one of those will provide the inspiration, but I can't think of many better ways to turn a fight on a pre-level 5 character. Add in additional buffs such as Bless. Suddenly, you've turned your whole team into an absolute blowout in a fight. The best part is I haven't even specified which cycle, because they're all really good. I think Reaping is the clear loser here, providing about average of 8 necrotic damage, which is less than using your turn for something entirely different. But even if you're in the Reaping cycle, giving your whole team heroic inspiration is still going to win a fight. One caveat I'll add in here is inspiration doesn't stack, and humans now get it all the damn time. There's also other classes or subclasses giving it to themselves or others. While this does restrict the uses of Bountiful Harvest, it's pretty trivial to just have your team use up their inspirations on their first misses or fails in a fight, so you can still get full use out of this. Moving on then from all these goodies at level 3, at level 6 you gain Blessing of the Seasons. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw of a particular type determined by your current cycle, you can take a reaction to allow it to reroll the d20 and use the new roll. The type of saving throws you can affect are as follows. While you're in sowing, you can affect dexterity and charisma saving throws. With growing, it's constitution and intelligence, and with reaping, it's wisdom and strength. Additionally, after the saving throw succeeds or fails, roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus, and the target regains hit points equal to the total rolled. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Okay, this is real interesting. It's also a proper incentive to not stick with one cycle. And something D&D players are notoriously bad at, scouting ahead. An example of optimal use of this is taking a short rest to change to sowing when you know you're going to be fighting a dragon, or growing when fighting a mind flayer, or reaping when fighting arena demons with wisdom saves. It only costs a reaction and a charge. Makes this really powerful. It kind of reminds me of Silvery Barbs, and it's a really big but. You really need to pick the right cycle for the fight, and that's going to restrict the spells going in. Say your party needs extra damage, say you want to roll into the fight with Reaping cycle active, but the fight suddenly is all dex saves from large AoE traps. Well, now suddenly this feature doesn't do anything? That's brutal. The swinginess of this is insane. Now, for Cleric, unfortunately, you have to wait all the way till level 17 for your last subclass feature. And, whew, what a doozy. When you use your Bountiful Harvest, you grant yourself and the creatures affected by your channeled divinity an additional benefit based on your current aspect. With Sowing, targets gain the effects of Regenerate spell, a level 7 spell, for 1 minute, and you have to maintain concentration. With Growing, all targets gain an advantage on saving throws and ability checks for up to 1 hour, and you have to maintain concentration. Or with Reaping, targets gain resistance to necrotic and psychic and poison damage for 1 hour. Once you use this feature, you can't do so until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of level 7 or above. So covering these individually now, Sowing gives you massive health, decent temporary health, and health per turn to your whole party.
Just this once! Everybody lives!
That's gross. Easily worth a level 7 spell slot, even if you only have one. When you use this with Growing, you're giving your whole party bonuses on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. That's a huge team boost. Something very fitting for this level of play, I think. Unfortunately, Reaping Cycle once again falls short here. These resistances can be quite trivial to get by using potions or proper gear. Overall then, I think this subclass is very hard to play, and optimal swapping of cycles requires great forethought, planning, and again, D&D players hate to do this, but proper scouting. The payoffs are insane though. Each part of this class, even the spell list if chosen carefully for the scenario, will absolutely decimate a fight. But playing the class as a one-cycle, one-dimensional stickler will leave you high and dry for a lot of scenarios. I know I would personally love to play the Harvest Cleric and feel like I'm playing a game of chess with the DM, trying to use divination magic and scouting techniques to always make sure I have the upper hand and the right cycle equipped. Oof, what an amazingly challenging subclass Adventurers have built here. I actually wish it was slightly less punishing to play just one of the cycles, like be the cool Reaper Cleric the whole time. For that reason, I'm going to take away the S. But it is an easy high A, with some of the strongest situational support features I've ever laid eyes on. Okie dokie, so from masterminded role-swapping magic-wielding battlefield controller to a dead fighter. Now, I'm sure this can only go well. The Barrow Guard subclass represents a Crypt Keeper empowered by the grave, drawing on the spirits of the dead through Draugr dice. This could lead to some immense backstories where the big bad was resurrected under your watch and it's now your duty to return them to the grave where they belong. Or you're just a zombie that can use a sword really well. No spells to cover this time, but we do have a resource table I'll put on screen when relevant. At level 3, you only gain one feature called Death Knight, but it is one of the wordiest features in this entire book, and that's saying something. The first part explains the dice table, and that you regain one expended Draugr dice when you finish a short rest, and all of them when you finish a long rest. The save DC for any of your powers is 8 plus Constitution modifier plus proficiency bonus. This is pushing me to make a con-maxing tank, but that might just be my monkey brain focusing too hard on the save DC. You have 3 options for using your Draugr dice, and these can be summarized as the following. Dark Rider. Once per short or long rest, unless you spend a dice to refresh this, as a bonus action you summon a ghostly undead warhorse. Okay, I'm sold. You alone can ride this creature. It's resistant to physical damage, and it can dash, disengage, or dodge. When it dashes, you can roll a Draugr dice to boost its speed by the amount rolled. Riding a speedy spectral steed into combat is definitely on my bucket list now. You can also use your dice on the Grave Guard feature. Whenever you take damage, you can use your reaction to reduce this damage by a Draugr die plus Constitution modifier. Or you can use your dice for Soul Reaper. As part of an attack action, replace one attack to summon Ghostly Hands. The target makes a strength save or takes necrotic damage equal to your Draugr dice plus Constitution modifier. And, more importantly, it's grappled for up to 1 minute. Okay, we're clearly doubling down on the use of Constitution here, so that's a nice clear goal for the subclass. With high con also comes some assumptions. You are melee focused, you are heavily armored. It's best to find a way to force enemies to focus you. If you can do these things, then this level 3 feature takes care of all the rest. It's a massive speed boost, a decent damage reduction, and a way of grappling enemies even from afar. By level 5, this already feels like a super versatile tank with clear purpose and multiple ways of achieving it. One bonus that might slip past is this grapple serves as like a 60-foot range anti-flyer tech. As you reduce their speed to 0, they can't fly anymore, they're plummeting. At level 7 you gain Siphoning Souls, a nice little way of recovering Draugr dice whenever a living creature perishes near you. It also lets you spend a Draugr dice to add to any important ability check. The only thing I think's missing is a taunt of some kind. If I get to be a negative Nancy for a moment here, I'm not sure I like the theme of the dice only restoring when living things die near you. It kind of goes against my image of this subclass as being a herder or a hunter of ghosts and ghouls and other undead. I kind of wanted to play this as like a ghost hunter, but it turns out you actually gain much more benefit from living people dying near you. Actually, Now that I mention it, the level 3 feature involving a grapple and necrotic damage, neither of these things work against ghosts either. Okay, I'm having to change my view of this character. Maybe we could run it as a headless horseman-esque ghost. They themselves on a vengeance path. It's definitely something I'd want to play, but it goes a bit against the description that was provided for this. Makes me think they changed direction a bit when making this subclass. Anyway, at level 10 you gain Tomb Castellan. This improves each of your level 3 uses in the following ways. When you summon your Dark Rider, the ghostly steed of your Dark Rider now ignores difficult terrain. Additionally, when your steed takes the dash, disengage, or dodge action, you can expend a use of your Dragon Dice. Your steed, and you, if you're riding it, magically teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 60 feet of the steed, and deal some necrotic damage to creatures around you when you appear.
Now you're thinking with portals.
When you use Graveguard, the creature that damaged you also takes psychic damage equal to half the amount you reduced. And when you use Soul Reaper, the creature grappled by you starts its turn and it takes psychic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. When it does, you can expend a reaction and another roll of a Draugr dice and add that to the damage. For a level 10 feature, the damage is meh. The only one of the three I'm excited about here is the teleporting pony, as a per turn 60-foot teleport is an obscene amount of mobility. Something you might overlook is Graveguard's damage is quite small, but it is guaranteed. This is a nice way of forcing concentration checks against any damaging spells. At level 15 your powers are once again upgraded as you become the Grave Lord. When you use your Dark Rider power, you can allow one creature of your choice to mount the steed in addition to you. Additionally, when you expend a Draugr die during the steed's dash action, you can move through solid objects and creatures as if they were difficult terrain. Which is an interesting way of phrasing that, considering you're immune to difficult terrain, but I assume it means half speed. When you use your Graveguard power, you choose one of the triggering damage types. You have resistance to that damage type until the start of your next turn, including to the triggering damage itself. Also, a creature grappled by your Soul Reaper power now has the restrained condition until the grapple ends. Holy! Every one of these is kind of busto. Okay. You have so many Draugr dice at this point. You're not going to run out, so don't worry about that. I shouldn't have to explain how resistance to the damage you are currently taking and all future damage of that type. That is mental. It's Bareform Wildheart's Barbarian's most broken feature. But you also reduce the damage by an amount and hit back for half of that? Whew, all just from using one Draugr die. If I ever needed a reason not to try and hurt one of my players, this would be it. The restrained condition from your Soul Reaper power is pretty debilitating. It's not quite stunned, but it's decent enough to perk up my ears. Important to note is this grapple can hit creatures of any size. But do be careful because the big things tend to have pretty high strength or dex to break through. Finishing out this subclass with level 18, Might of Necropolis, Eternal Vigil. Oh, that's a proper movie title. Showing this Sunday, Might of the Necropolis 2, Eternal Vigil. You no longer suffer the effects of aging, you can't be magically aged, and you don't die of old age. In addition, you no longer require air, food, drink, or sleep. I'm pretty sure all that stuff is already written on the undead, but we're really solidifying here. You are now basically undead, even if not technically. You also gain Restless Dead. When you roll initiative, if you have fewer than 3 Draugr die, you regain expended die until you have 3. Now, depending on the campaign, Might of the Necropolis, Eternal Vigil, might as well be flavor text, but you can now exist underwater or inside Bag of Holdings. There's some shenanigans to be had there. I would have to play it out, but the Restless Dead thing, gaining new Draugr die back, seems kinda redundant. Look, you already have 12 die, plus 1 every short rest. Regain them all on a long rest. You gain 1 every time a living thing dies near you. Are we really craving more?
Please, sir, I want some more.
I won't sugarcoat it, but I went through all level 18 features for fighter subclasses, and this actually is the worst of all of them. The only saving grace here, I would say, is that hardly anyone's going to play at level 18. And when you do, you've got bigger things to worry about than how fast you age. Overall then, I do think this subclass is quite feat reliant. But if you can get the mounted combatant feat, plus the sentinel or polearm master feat, with a lance or a halberd, you can absolutely own the battlefield. You become nigh unkillable, you have pretty much infinite movement, including teleports, you can grapple people out of the sky. The battlefield is your world and everyone else just lives in it. I can live with the shift in flavor from Brave Protector to Ghostly Force. I actually kind of dig it now. I just wish they'd been consistent from the start. I'm going to give this subclass an S. And the thing that tips it there for me is it doesn't actually force a build on you. I know I mentioned earlier that Constitution high classes probably want certain things to go for them, but you could play this as ranged. You could play it with a two-handed weapon or a shield. Nothing in here actually restricts that, or even really forces you one way or another. Play how you want, and just gain massive movement, massive resistance, and long-range grapples on top of it. Kind of amazing, and definitely deserving of the S. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode ranking these two subclasses. I'm sure we'll hit some stinkers eventually, but for now, I just want to play all of these. They look so fun. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, please drop a like and a subscribe, and I'll personally endeavour to work harder and make more of these. Thanks a million. I'll catch you next time.